Hi and welcome. My name's Rob Scott from UC Today, bringing you the latest news and conversation from the unified communications and collaboration industry. So today's talk is centered on streamlining UC and collaboration environments in the digital workplace. And to help explore this topic, I'm joined by IR, BT, and Wainhouse Research. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks, Rob.
Hey, thanks, Rob.
Great to have you all online, and thank you. I really appreciate you all from all corners of the globe today. And so I think a good place to start would be just a quick round of introductions before we get stuck into this really interesting topic. So, Kevin, as today's sponsor, would you like to go first?
Thanks, Rob. Well, Kevin Ryder. I'm the Chief Marketing and Product Officer here at IR, so I'm responsible for the product strategy. IR provides tools that helps organizations optimize performance and provide intelligent insight into their UC and collaboration tools through our real-time hybrid platform. Our customers include many enterprises and large service providers such as BT, and Steve, of course, is from today. Essentially, we ensure that our customers can provide a great user experience in the digital workplace.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. And Steve, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Steve Macgregor. I'm from BT. I'm from the BT Global arm of that company. And my today's job title is Digital Workplace Director, which is our global portfolio, which includes a lot of the tools that we're going to talk about coming to prominence today.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Oh, introduction, yes. Bill Haskins. I am a managing partner at Wainhouse Research. We're a research firm who focuses specifically on unified communications. It's all we focus on, which has been a heavy amount of focus over the last 6 months. We spent a lot of time with both the vendors, kind of the supply side in this conversation, our good friends at IR, and the demand side, the enterprise decision makers. Should be a great conversation today. Thanks for putting it together.
Thanks. And thank you, everybody. And welcome. So, right, let's get stuck into this conversation. So I'm really interested to hear, maybe Kevin, first of all, what the state of the marketplace is and whether, IT admins have end-to-end visibility across all these platforms and provided by these multiple vendors.
Well, Rob, end-to-end implies, the multi-vendor, multi-site. There's a lot of complexities involved in that. And the research tells us that about a third of enterprises have no tools, or that have tools that they, hodgepodge that they put together to try to get visibility into their UC and collaboration environments. About a third have single vendor tools, and about a third have the third-party tools such as IR's tools. So that means that only about a third have true end-to-end visibility. We say here that the mean time to resolution is largely impacted by the mean time to identify. And without those tools that can see end-to-end, customers, we find, take an awful long time to find out where the problem is, and you end up with a lot of finger pointing. Organizations that have to decide whether it's at the network, whether it's the application, whether it's a service provider. And so, in this multi-vendor hybrid environment, which just introduces more complexity, that ability to identify quickly, get to the root cause of where a problem is incredibly vital. So, in today's world, where now, of course, many of us are working from home, and where we've got users that might be picking up their Xbox headsets and using those instead of maybe the compliant headsets. Finding out where those issues are, whether they're at the endpoint or whether they're somewhere in between, is super critical. So we say that simplification often comes with complexity, and so the users just want a simple world. So it's important that therefore that they have the right tools in the IT admin's hands to be able to ensure that that simple experience, that great experience, is a smooth one, and so that's an incredibly vital thing today.
Thanks, Steve. What's your perspective on that?
I think that complexity has increased very very much recently as well, because where we've had captive networks until recently, everybody's been forced to work at home, and they're no longer being monitored on their own commercial networks in the company. And so they've used the internet and they've used mobile. We've seen a lot of growth in both internet and audio switching onto mobile networks, which makes the monitoring end to end all that more difficult.
Yeah, I love that point on mobile. Also, we saw the same thing, Steve. The transition from managed network traffic to unmanaged, the enterprise but unmanaged networks was shocking. How fast that happened from 26% average to popping to 65, 66%, and then holding steady for the last 6 months. But the point on mobile, I think, is especially salient. We saw the same thing, that as the pandemic disrupted and shifted workers to this new environment, what we believe is the traditional, core communication calling tools specifically, anybody who was behind their own edge had a hard time managing this new distributed workforce. And so users ended up in two places, cloud meeting services, but if I needed to make a call, it was most likely on my mobile, while IT kind of scrambled in that first period.
So there's some new challenges on our hands. Bill, you've done some research recently, so could you talk us through that? And I know the impact of the pandemic on these environments.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Thanks. The IT teams that we talk to, I think, provide this kind of microcosmic view into the larger IT industry. As an IT manager myself, the net is that IT is in completely uncharted territory, especially at first managing through the transition. What I mean by that is average IT teams, and this is no disrespect, have historically been managed as cost centers, getting by with fewer resources than more on average, figuring things out, and to be frank, pretty reactive by design. I mean, there's only so much you can do with, to Kevin's point, this complex environment. Most teams manage 2 or more PBXs from different vendors. It just takes a while to get those things out of your network. UC solutions that provide messaging, 2 or more. Meeting solutions before the pandemic, it's 3, 4 different meeting platforms that they're trying to keep track of at one time. And the pandemic only exacerbated this as users had more access and had to figure things out to keep rolling. But that, I think the history of what we see in how IT has been managed, they're not the cost center, they're not viewed as the cost center anymore. They're now the cool kids on the block, the most important function in the organization in terms of delivering communications. So what the research shows is, while there's this, traditional complex environment, IT very quickly made a number of changes to manage this new environment, specifically spending more time with the business. Subjectively, most IT teams that we talk to have had, really no choice but to sit with the business owners to figure out how to keep them working in this new environment. That's been really cool to watch. It was needed. The second piece is, while you have this complex environment, I think that the traditional group of services that IT provides kind of went out the window for a lot of teams during this window, as everybody just tried to figure out what services were needed to keep users working. And that put a huge focus in the short term on meeting platforms, cloud-based meeting platforms, as you'd expect. We saw that in the numbers. The second piece was contact center. If you thought it was important to get voice to your users, first ones you're going to think about are those agents who are probably working from home. And the calling is still part of this discussion, but at the end of the discussion, that's a much more, usually viewed as a much more complex and slow-moving workload, honestly, to manage. So if you were working on a cloud-based calling migration initially, you probably picked up the pace, as we hit this pandemic. But if you weren't, you're more interested likely in cloud calling than you were before. You're looking at options, but the standard workflow to get that workload out of your prem and into the cloud really hasn't changed for a lot of these guys. It's a slow, careful process. If you roll all that together, the other observation is that IT, while they're working on providing these more cloud-based services to tie everybody together, we're talking to a number who are acting opportunistically, who are looking at the need for a desk phone, for example, and saying, hey, we're moving to the cloud anyways. I was planning to deploy phones with that move, but I've retrained everybody magically on how to use a PC, their headset, and a soft client. I'm just pushing the gas. So we think there's going to be a fundamental shift with a lean towards cloud-based contact center, a lean towards meetings as the center of interaction, and a distinct shift in the kit that users use really to allow them to, like we've been saying, work from anywhere.
It's interesting that you do. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say
when is he going to stop?
There's a whole bunch of new kit that has been added, and that kit is in addition. It's not instead of.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're noticing, you were saying, Bill, is that we're seeing that cloud has come in, but also all this new kit. And I think it's part of that work from home. Maybe it's the run for the hills when the pandemic started, that everyone grabbed everything they could, and so now what we're seeing is that sort of blowing open of the expectation of IT now to support everything. Including the non-compliant headsets. Sorry, Steve, you were going to say?
I was just going to say there's an expectation from consumer products that has come from people, just in their everyday, not working lives, but play lives. They use their phone, and they just expect things to work. And they get used to a certain level of functionality on systems, and then they expect work to do exactly the same. So the pressure from buying, and especially since the pandemic, when everybody wants to communicate because that's all they can do. You can't meet anymore. You've got to, meet online. So the expectation for those tools is heightened, and the pressure is coming from what's available just from consumer. So that expectation and for it just to work is really important for the IT guys to be able to make sure that it works. And they need to make sure that it works by making sure they've got the right networks, by making sure they've got the right headsets, by making sure they're monitoring the system. Otherwise, it isn't going to work.
It's a great observation. Sorry, Rob, cut me off.
No, Bill, I was actually going to come back to you, and for the audience's benefit, let's break this down a little bit in terms of these challenges, because you've identified 4 real big challenges in your ebook in conjunction with IR. So talk us through those if you can.
Yeah, well, the first piece that we always talk about is security. I think if you're an IT person, think about the disruption from an IT standpoint. It was already fragmented, right? Managing this complex environment. And then had a new complex environment to figure out. Steve nailed it. The shift in expectation was that I need services that connect me immediately. Got to still do my job, and those aren't necessarily the services I had before. And so there was a lot of movement towards kind of end user oriented services, and you saw the numbers. I mean, if you just look at the market stats, the vendors who obviously saw the biggest bump, Zoom and Microsoft, and they share 2 interesting things in common. Zoom matches Steve's point on consumer ease of use. You can take opinion out of this. The numbers are what they are. Look at their revenue over the last 2 quarters. And that's indicative of an easy to use, easy to consume service. Microsoft was already there. Both services are familiar at some level to those end users. So picture yourself as a IT trying to manage security in an environment that you can't necessarily see because there's new services in it, and an environment that users are figuring out and don't have training necessarily on, certainly not your standard training. You wrap those together and you've got both complexity challenge and security challenge in the discussion. I think if you look at that next layer of challenge for IT, a lot of that comes down to their resource ability. How are they going to change towards where they want to go, which is proactivity? I hold by the fact that IT may be historically reactive. I get a ticket in, I go do my troubleshooting, I do my CDR dumpster diving, figure out what happened with my executive call them back a week later, they forgot they had a problem. Whew, I'm good, I'm off the hook. That may be a standard workflow for a lot of teams, but it's not. This is not because that's what IT wants when we talk to them. When you're a resource constrained team, you've had to adapt your own workflow to be creative and get things done with tools available. The IT teams we talk to want to move into this proactive, this more proactive, let me evaluate my environment from a data standpoint, from analytics, which is part of all of our conversations, and be able to solve problems before users find them, and more importantly, predict problems, understand user patterns from a data standpoint, and be able to bring that into kind of my own workflow as part of my standard process. But if you roll that together, plus the last piece that while IT may not have a view into what the users are using, certainly in the last recent history, they also don't have they don't have any ability to manage that end user environment. For those that they do know, once you get behind that gateway, that broadband modem, good luck, man. So IT, to turn that corner, is really looking towards how do I consolidate, add data to my conversation, consolidate services to a platform that then I can use to gain insight and drive workflow solutions.
Yeah, the data is it's really important to be able to distinguish what sort of service you need to deliver to the different personas within a company. The customers that we've got with BT, they're not small customers for the most part. They're quite large corporates, and they've got distributed workforces, which are even more distributed now. And they've all got different needs. And so the number of tools that they actually use to do the collaboration, it's not just one tool. One company just doesn't buy one tool anymore. What they want is what they want. And marketing department will want Zoom, and the technical department will want Microsoft Teams. And the challenge at IT is to be able to make all of those work together, which is even more difficult than having just one.
Yeah, I think Bill, you did some great research and had the whole best of breed versus single vendors flipped in the last couple of years as well.
And it's where I was going. The two salient data points there. IT historically has been, about 5 years ago, was focused very much on platform strategy. Thanks in part to the analyst community saying you gotta be on a UC platform, man, and put everything in one spot. Users will be more productive, and that was the drive. It was actually 2 years flip, exactly the opposite. I mean, we're talking 80% plus of IT saying I want to be platform several years ago, into this 80% plus saying best of breed. I'm just going to roll with what makes sense for the end user. And if you decompose that observation, there is still glorious productivity that comes with a well-delivered UC platform. But from an end user perspective, you better have a larger value prop in why you're rolling out a UC platform, because most users at some point in their experience voice displeasure, whether it's I have a different meeting platform I want, or why can't we use a different messaging platform, etc. So IT is kind of on the hook to justify that. At the same time, IT has realized that the data shows that when we ask IT what's the biggest benefit of a UC platform, security rises right to the top, but IT productivity is right there with it. So we've kind of flipped from UC as an acknowledgement of will drive end user productivity to will drive IT productivity. And by the way, if you're on a unified platform IT, it's going to be more secure because you've got perspective, insight, and the ability to manage.
Great. Well, let's look at some of the benefits of getting this right then. So, Steve, I'd like to ask you first, really, because you use these services. What are the benefits of getting this right?
Well, we use these services and we sell them. And what we're being told is the quality of experience for the individuals is actually one of the predominant things of importance. It's a lifeline to people now. These tools are becoming the way that people work, and it's almost like a benchmark to start. And when people are joining companies, if you haven't got the right tools, there's an immediate disaffectation of, oh my God, are these guys out of the ark? So there's an expectation from the employees for having these tools, and when they get them, there's an expectation that they work. So the quality of experience is really important. So at BT, we try and take a people first approach when we're delivering systems, and so we really need to understand how they're going to use things. And it's not just the delivery of the technology. It's being able to tell people how to use them and how to get the best out of the systems that they've got, and how the company can support their use of those tools. So if we think about looking at a rollout and providing the right training up front for the users, that's one thing. If they're not trained, if they don't understand, they won't use it. The business case will fall through. They'll not renew the contract. So the users are of paramount importance here. And monitoring the situation and how they're using them comes in multiple different things. You monitor the network, you monitor the devices that they've got, you monitor the applications that they're using. They're all signal sources on how the systems are being used and how efficiently they're being used. The good thing about monitoring these things is that as a service provider, we can use those different signals to long-term work out how people are using the system to provide correct network provision, for example. We can look at the media paths and the hops in the network when something goes wrong. And if we're using something like software-defined networks, then we can flip the network in real time to provide a better experience for the individual. And so there's real-time monitoring that we can use, there's historical monitoring that we can use. And I think there's an opportunity in the future as well for our customers to be able to have a look at that data and provide some insights from that data as to how the masses, if you like, the different teams actually communicate with each other. It's the metadata. Do they all use the video capabilities? Do they use the messaging capabilities? Are they sharing documents over this? So you can understand how people are using the tools, but you can only do that if you're looking at what's going on.
That certainly is the holy grail, isn't it? Turning all that data into insights so you can ultimately go forward and be efficient. So really interesting that. So Kevin, how do you align all these needs? How do you solve this problem?
Well, I think Steve mentioned the insights, and I think the key is to make sure that they're intelligent insights, things that can help you identify issues as quickly as possible. Ideally, you want that to be proactively. So in an ideal world, you will be able to know that an issue is going to occur before it actually occurs, and so you can see all the vital signs there, and at least perhaps before the customers start calling the IT help desk. So I think being able to proactively identify those issues, having that intelligent insights, is a critical aspect of that. And we mentioned, that the multi-vendor environment, and for us, we do that across Avaya, Cisco, Skype for Business, and more recently we've added Teams and Zoom as well. So whether it's cloud, whether it's on premises, having those issues identified quickly, being able to find that needle in the haystack, is a critical thing. And I think, for us, we've been working with BT for many years now, but for us, it's making sure that, we can provide those tools. With those tools are used by IT operations, typically by IT admins to ensure great service for their customers. But I think, as Steve mentioned as well earlier, is that ability also to provide reports. It's important that you not only can can identify issues, proactively solve those problems, but also be able to report. And that's becoming more and more important. Different groups, different departments, they would like to understand how the performance has been for their teams, perhaps. Over time, over the last 24 hours, the last 30 days, the last 6 months, etc. And I think as well as organizations migrate, as they introduce new technologies, they need to benchmark and understand how those new technologies are being implemented. So ensuring an optimized experience is a critical part of that great user experience in the digital workplace.
Fantastic. And what's the best way for viewers to find out more about this topic?
Yeah, so I engaged Bill at Wainhouse Research there to provide us a thought leadership paper, and we've produced a great ebook. That ebook is it's called Managing Complexity in Complex Times. It's available from the IR website, which is ir.com. So if people head over to there, they can download the ebook.
Fantastic, and that is the best title, isn't it, to describe this situation, certainly. So, hey, it's been great to talk to you all today. I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks. No problem.
Thanks, Rob.
And that's it from us. So if you've enjoyed today's session, please do give us a quick like or a share on social media. It's always appreciated. But I'm Rob Scott for UC Today. Thanks for watching.